Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. You know how we do it around here. Get ready to explore some fascinating stuff. Today, we're looking at a book that's been making waves for 25 years now. Can you believe it? 25 years. Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, a New York Times bestseller for a quarter century. It's pretty remarkable.
It really is, and what's even more interesting is that it's still so relevant today in our fast-paced world with constant distractions. This book's message of presence seems more important than ever.
Definitely. And to help us unpack all of this, we've got the book's Audible page, some insightful listener reviews, and of course the expertise of, well, you are experts, so let's dive right in.
Sounds good to me. I'm always ready for a good deep dive.
All right, so first things first, the Audible page tells us that The Power of Now is ranked #1 in several categories, like Buddhism, spiritual meditation, and spiritual self-help.
Wow, that's impressive. It must be resonating with a lot of people.
It is over 62,000 ratings on Audible with an average of 4.7 stars. That's pretty incredible.
Those are some pretty compelling numbers. It seems like Tolle's message has really struck a chord.
And you know what's even more interesting is that people aren't just reading this book, they're really experiencing it. They're applying it to their lives. One reviewer even mentioned how the book is so clear and accessible, even if you're not into all the spiritual stuff.
That's so important, making these concepts approachable for everyone.
Right. And another reviewer talked about how the power of now helped them find peace and manage their anxiety.
It's amazing how powerful the present moment can be when we actually tap into it.
They even mentioned something called watching the thinker. Have you ever heard of that?
Oh yeah, watching the thinker. It's a really core concept in Tolle's work. It's basically about becoming aware of your thoughts without getting caught up in them, like you're observing your mind from a distance.
So it's not about like stopping your thoughts altogether.
No, not at all. It's more about changing your relationship to them, like
Hmm.
realizing that you are not your thoughts, you are the observer.
I see. So it's about creating some space between you and all that mental chatter.
Exactly. That space allows you to find a sense of stillness and peace, even amidst all the busyness of life. We tend to get so entangled with our thoughts that we believe we are them, and that can create a lot of suffering.
Yeah, I know. I've definitely been there, stuck in my head, worrying about things I can't control or dwelling on the past.
It's a common human experience, but with practice, we can learn to observe those thoughts without judgment, and that's where the freedom lies.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like you're detaching yourself from the drama of your mind and finding a more peaceful way of being.
Exactly. It's about realizing that you have a choice. You don't have to be a slave to your thoughts.
This is fascinating. It's making me think about all those times I've missed out on the present moment because I was so lost in my head.
We all do it, but the good news is we can train our minds to be more present, and that's where the real power lies. The power to choose how we experience life.
And speaking of power, there's another term that came up in the reviews that I wanted to ask you about, the pain body.
Ah, yes, the pain body. It's a fascinating concept. It's basically this accumulation of past pain and negative emotions that we carry around with us.
So it's kind of like baggage from our past.
Yeah, you could say that. And the thing is, this pain body can get triggered by certain situations, causing us to react in ways that aren't really serving us.
So like if someone says something that triggers an old wound, it's not really them, it's our pain body reacting.
Exactly, and that's why understanding the pain body is so important. It helps us to take responsibility for our own emotional reactions.
So instead of blaming others for our pain, we can start to see how our past is influencing our present.
Right. It's about becoming aware of those patterns and making conscious choices instead of being ruled by unconscious reactions.
Wow, this is getting really interesting.
Hmm.
It seems like Tolle is giving us a whole new way of understanding ourselves and the world around us.
He is, and the best part is that it's all based on the power of the present moment, something we all have access to right here, right now.
Okay, so I'm already starting to see how this book could be really helpful for people. But there's one thing I'm still wondering about, and that's how do we actually apply these concepts to our daily lives?
Yeah.
I mean, our minds are pretty busy. How do we actually watch the thinker
Hmm.
in the middle of all the chaos?
That's a great question, and one that Tully addresses head on in the book. He offers a lot of practical techniques for cultivating presence.
Like what kind of techniques?
Well, one of the simplest and most effective is to focus on your senses.
Our senses.
Yeah, like when you feel yourself getting lost in thought, just take a moment to really notice what you're seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and feeling in your body.
So like really paying attention to the details of our surrounding?
Exactly. It's about bringing your attention to the present moment through your senses. This can really help to ground you and interrupt that cycle of overthinking.
I see. So it's like a way to anchor ourselves in the now instead of getting swept away by the past or the future.
Exactly. And the more you practice this, the easier it becomes. It's like training a muscle, the muscle of presence.
That's a great analogy. I can already see how this could be really helpful for managing stress and anxiety.
It definitely can, and it's just one of the many techniques that Tolle offers in The Power of Now. He also talks about the importance of acceptance, of letting go of resistance to what is, and of connecting with your inner purpose.
Wow, this is just scratching the surface. It sounds like there's a lot to unpack in this book.
There is, and the beauty of it is that you can keep coming back to it again and again, each time discovering new layers of meaning and wisdom.
I love that idea of a book being a lifelong companion, something you can keep revisiting and learning from.
Exactly. And with a book like The Power of Now, that journey of discovery is always leading you back to the most important place, the present moment. And what's amazing is how Tolle takes all of these concepts and he doesn't just leave them in the realm of spirituality, he brings them down to earth, makes them applicable to our everyday lives.
I was just thinking that because several reviewers mentioned how the power of now helped them in situations like job interviews or even dealing with relationships, which, can be super stressful.
Oh, absolutely. Job interviews. I mean, talk about a breeding ground for anxiety and those what ifs about the future. It's like our minds go into overdrive.
Yeah, like that projector we were talking about starts playing all the worst case scenarios, right?
Exactly. But imagine if instead of getting lost in that mental movie, you could hit pause, take a step back, just observe those thoughts and feelings without judgment. That's the power of watching the thinker. It's like you're not at the mercy of your anxiety anymore. You're in control.
So in a job interview, instead of freaking out about all the possible questions or dwelling on past mistakes, I could shift my attention to my breath, maybe notice the sensations in my body, kind of ground myself in the present moment.
Exactly. You're bringing your awareness to what is actually happening rather than getting lost in the what ifs, and that can make a huge difference.
It's like rewriting the script from one of fear and self-doubt to one of empowered awareness.
You got it, and that shift in perspective can completely change the game.
This is so empowering. And what about relationships? They can
Yeah.
be pretty challenging, even at the best of times.
Yeah.
How does the power of now help us navigate all of that?
Well, relationships can be tricky because they often act as mirrors reflecting back to us our own unresolved stuff.
Yeah.
Our insecurities, our fears. We tend to project our past hurts and expectations onto our partners, and that creates a cycle of conflict and misunderstandings.
It's like that pain body we were talking about, always lurking beneath the surface, ready to jump out at any moment.
Exactly. But imagine this, instead of reacting defensively when your partner triggers those old wounds, you take a moment to pause, observe those feelings, without judgment, and recognize them as echoes of the past, not necessarily the truth of this present moment.
So instead of saying something like, you always do this, or why can't you ever understand me, I take a breath, recognize that maybe my reaction is coming from my own pain body, and then choose a more mindful response.
That's it. You're taking responsibility for your own emotional state, recognizing that your partner isn't the source of your pain, but maybe just a mirror reflecting back to you something that needs healing within yourself.
That's a pretty profound shift in perspective.
Yeah.
It's not about blaming our partners or expecting them to fix us. It's about using those challenges as opportunities to grow and become more self-aware.
Right. And that's what's so powerful about Tolle's message. He's guiding us towards understanding that true fulfillment in relationships and in life in general, it doesn't come from external circumstances. It comes from cultivating that deep connection with the present moment.
It's about finding that inner peace and stillness that's always there, regardless of what's happening around us.
Yeah.
But let's be real, our minds are pretty busy.
Yeah.
It's easy to say, be present. But how do we actually put this into practice in our daily lives? Do you have any tips or techniques that really resonated with you?
Well, one of the simplest yet most powerful practices that Tolle suggests is to focus on our senses.
Have senses.
Yeah, when you find yourself lost in thought, just bring your attention to what you're experiencing through your senses. What are you seeing? What are you hearing, smelling, tasting, and feeling in your body?
So it's about really tuning into the details of our surroundings, like the warmth of the sun on our skin, the taste of our food, the sound of the wind in the trees.
Exactly. It's about fully engaging with the present moment through our senses. And it's a simple act, but it can really interrupt that cycle of overthinking and bring us back to the richness of now.
It sounds almost too simple, but I can see how powerful it could be. It's like we're training our attention to focus on the beauty and wonder that's already all around us if we just choose to see it. It's amazing how just shifting our perspective, like that focusing on our senses, can completely change our experience of life. And as we wrap up our deep dive into the power of now,
Uh-huh.
it feels like we've discovered so much more than just a book. It's like a whole toolkit for living a more peaceful and fulfilling life.
It really is. And what strikes me is how Tolle takes these complex spiritual ideas and makes them so practical and accessible to anyone, regardless of their background or beliefs.
And that's reflected in the incredible response from listeners. Right over 62,000 ratings on Audible with an average of 4.7 stars. That's pretty remarkable.
It speaks volumes. It seems like the power of now is offering something that a lot of people are searching for, that inner peace, amidst all the chaos of modern life.
Exactly. And he doesn't present it as this unattainable mystical state, something only for monks on mountaintops. He shows us how to integrate these principles into our everyday lives, whether it's dealing with stress at work, navigating relationships, or just finding a moment of calm in the midst of a busy day.
It's about recognizing that the present moment is all we truly have. The past is gone, the future is uncertain, but right here, right now, there's a wellspring of peace and stillness available to us.
It's like that quote from the book. Realize deeply that the present moment is all you have. Make the NOW the primary focus of your life so powerful.
It is, and it's a practice, not a destination we'll inevitably get caught up in our thoughts and worries. But the key is to gently bring our attention back to the present moment, again and again.
And as we practice watching the thinker, observing those thoughts and emotions without judgment, we create space for a deeper sense of peace and presence to emerge.
It's a journey of self-discovery, a path to reclaiming our power from the tyranny of the mind and connecting with the boundless potential that lies within each of us.
Well, this has been such an insightful deep dive. If you're feeling inspired to explore the power of now for yourself, we have a special offer. You can get a free copy of the audiobook with a free trial of Audible. It's a great way to experience Tolle's teachings firsthand.
And who knows, it might just spark a transformative shift in your own life.
You can find a link for the free audiobook and trial in the show notes. And don't forget to like and subscribe to The Deep Dive for more explorations into fascinating topics and insightful takeaways. Until next time, stay curious and keep diving deep.